Should we start with introductions?
Yeah.
Everyone ready?
It's recording, so sound good?
Okay. So I'll start off introductions. Hi, everyone. My name is Anita. I am an incoming freshman at the George Washington University. I am planning on studying political science, and I might be double majoring in communications, and I also plan to minor in theater. So the reason I chose to study political science is because I'm really passionate about social justice and human rights, and I want to go into a career in politics. I'm thinking about communications because it's a great major for anyone who's interested in public relations, campaign management, or just working in media. And finally, I am studying theater because I was a theater kid in high school, and acting is something I've been interested in for a really long time. So if I want to further my acting career in the future, minoring in theater would help me do that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I will be attending Boston University in the fall. My intended major is marketing, and I hope to pursue either a double major in CS or a minor in CS. And I chose marketing as a major because I enjoy a lot of more creative, less technical side of thinking. And then CS because I would potentially like to consider a career in UI or UX design.
Hi guys, my name is Medha. I'm going to be attending UCLA in the fall as a CS major, and I chose to major in CS because of how applicable it is to other fields that I'm interested in, and because the field is exciting and always growing, so I'll always have the opportunity to try new things. I don't really know what I want to do in the future yet, but I don't really want to be like a cog in the corporate machine, so we'll see how that goes.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabel, and I'm going to Northwestern this fall to study biomedical engineering. So my main interests are dance, and also I enjoy working with tech, so I wanted to kind of find that like intersectionality between medicine and technology.
Hi, my name's Hawk, and I'm going to be an incoming freshman at UC Berkeley this year. And I think I've always been really passionate about biology and the sciences. So I've always wanted to go into that field and giving back to people. And then I'm hoping to double major in business because I feel like that's an important skill to have no matter what field I go into.
Hi guys, my name's Sophia. I study in Spain at the Instituto de Empresa Business School, and I study international relations. I'm an incoming college sophomore, so if you have questions about university, I have completed 1 year. And I chose to study international relations because I really like the fields of economics, linguistics, and politics. And I'm doing a concentration in the governance of emerging technologies. So hopefully for future career interests, I'm looking at kind of like Isabel was saying, like an intersectionality between those two different fields.
Hey team, my name is Vibha. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley, and I plan to study computer science and probably apply to the School of Business later on. I chose computer science because I've spent several years exploring it in high school, and I really enjoy it and can definitely see myself doing it in the future in conjunction with any of my other interests. And I'm applying to business because, like Hawk said, it's a really valuable skill in any industry, and I definitely do see myself trying out for management positions in the future. So I think it would be a good skill set to have.
Hi, my name is Anjali. I am going to be a freshman at UC San Diego this fall, and I'm going to be majoring in cognitive science with a potential minor in CS or data science. I think COGS is a super interesting major. It's kind of like the intersection between CS and psych, which are some of my main interests, and hopefully I will be pursuing a career in either AI, machine learning, natural language processing, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Kalie, and I'm an incoming freshman at UC Berkeley, and my intended major is computer science as well. I got interested in computer science through a couple summer programs and high school activities that I did, and I really enjoy working with it and the problem solving aspect of it, as well as seeing how it can really help people. You can help people so much through building technology and developing new technology, and I think computer science is a way to be able to create technology in that way. And so that is why I'm choosing to major in computer science.
Okay, thank you everyone for the introductions. And in case you didn't know, we're all consultants for the Bay Area Consultology. So before we get into some of the questions that we received, I just wanted to briefly talk about the services that we offer. So we all recognize how disadvantageous it can be to not have access to some of the resources that families use to gain a leg up in the college admissions process, like tutoring, counseling, college prep schools, etc. But at the same time, we're all college students who are trying to pay for our own educations. So we found a way that we can all help each other out. So we started this business called the Bay Area Consultology, where we offer affordable essay editing and college consulting services for high school students such as yourselves who are planning to apply to college. We work with students on a case-by-case basis to help you apply for scholarships and financial aid, narrow down your college list, and choose high school classes and extracurriculars that demonstrate your strengths, passions, and individuality. Even though we're Bay Area based, we offer services to anyone in the world, and we can especially help students who live outside of California and are interested in applying to UC schools, since collectively we're admitted to every single one of the UCs. I know that doesn't really apply to people here because most of you are from California, but yeah, we can definitely help with UC apps. And if you want to learn more about our services and our prices and all of that, you can check out our Instagram, which is at Bay Area Consultology. But yeah. So yeah, now moving on to the questions. So we did get a lot of questions submitted to us through a Google form that Team Taro set up, so thank you for that. So yeah, getting into the questions. Our first one was, how did you go about applying for scholarships? So I'll start with this one off, and then Medha can give you some more information about that. So I actually compiled a list of scholarships for high school students, and I'll put the link to that list in the chat so you guys can check it out. And honestly, there are so many scholarships that are available to high school students. So yeah, just make sure to research, ask local businesses, ask your school, and Medha can talk more about school-specific scholarships.
Okay, hi everyone. So when I was applying for scholarships, there were a couple categories that I focused on applying to. So one of them was corporate sponsored, and then school sponsored, like high school sponsored, university sponsored, and then just random scholarships from online. So for corporate sponsored scholarships, there's a couple really big ones that you should look out for, like the Burger King scholarship, the Coca-Cola scholarship. For school sponsored, there's a lot of resources on campus that you can reach out to, like your counselors who will allow you to apply to scholarships that your school will give you with not a lot of essays or anything. And then there are also some private universities that offer scholarships themselves, like USC and UNC Chapel Hill and other schools like that. So if you look on their own website, each school has different scholarships, but they all require some sort of essay. And then lastly, my favorite topic are random scholarships. So this is what I mostly focused on. There are some scholarship-specific websites like Niche or FastWeb and scholarships.com that have a lot of scholarships that either don't require any essays or require lots of essays, and they range from like a couple $100s to thousands of dollars. So I would highly recommend checking those websites out and figuring out which scholarships you want to narrow down and apply to.
Okay, thank you, Medha. And our second question was, what's a good way to find schools that you like, and how did you know which colleges to apply to? So basically, how did you narrow down your college list? So Anjali and Isabel are both going to be able to talk a little bit about that. So Anjali, if you could start us off.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I think at one point during like the admissions process, I literally had 28 schools on my list, and I'm pretty sure I had more before that. And it wasn't because I was necessarily indecisive. I like genuinely thought I like wanted to apply to all of them. I was like, I want to apply to like 10 schools on the East Coast, and there's like 30 more schools here that I want to see if I can get into. But I think when it really came down to the wire, I realized that first of all, those application fees, not feasible. And then there's so many other factors that I think you should consider when you're narrowing down your college list. Price, fit, what it's like for your major, location, transportation, if you want to commute, if you want to live there, and also if you can really see yourself at that college. I think that's super important. There's no point in applying to schools where you don't see yourself spending 4 years learning and studying and growing. So at the end of the day, I think I applied to 19 total, which is still definitely a lot of schools, but better than 28. So make sure you consider what you really want and what you really see yourself doing when it comes to narrowing down a college list.
Yeah, so on top of everything Anjali said, I would say that Naviance is a pretty good tool for finding colleges that fit you, because you can kind of like sort through location and like, do you want like religious affiliation and things like that. And it kind of gives you like a range of schools that you might want to aim for. And then as for knowing what colleges to apply to, if you can, I would definitely recommend visiting campus, and if possible, like taking a class or two on campus, because I was able to visit a few schools, and the vibe at each school is quite different, and it's not something that you can really feel just looking at their website. So like obviously that's like it's really hard to like look at like 20 plus schools, but like if you have like a school that you really like, or you want to make a commitment towards, I would definitely recommend visiting. And then also on top of that, rolling admissions is quite helpful in helping you narrow down your list, because if you have a rolling admission school that comes out earlier than the rest of your apps, and for example, if it's like a target, like a low target or like high safety, you might be able to cut down on the rest of your safety schools, and then you wouldn't have to apply for them, which saves you quite a bit of money.
Okay, thank you, Anjali and Isabel. Those were great. Those are great answers. Okay. So our next question is, what do you think made you stand out for college apps? And for this question, we'll have Medha and Hawk answering. So Medha, if you could start us off.
Yeah, so I think in my application, the extracurriculars and the stuff I did, not very traditional for a CS major. Like had like an internship, and a lot of my extracurriculars were focused towards things that I really wanted to do. So I think that probably stood out in my college apps, because I chose a couple extracurriculars like music and art, and I really tried to develop like talent and passion in those couple extracurriculars. So it really showcased that I was open to doing things outside of my major, and it highlighted a part of me that I think some college admissions officers like to see. So Hawk, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. So for me, something I think helped me stand out was throughout like all my extracurriculars, even though they were kind of like spread out, all of it kind of had like the main theme of trying to give back and like helping people, which is also something I really tied into all of my essays, trying to show that's my passion. That's why I want to go into like the medical field. So even though I think some of my extracurriculars were over the place, it still fit with that theme. And that theme really matched my personality, which I think bringing your personality through your essays was something really important for me. And because it shows how you're actually passionate and like you want to achieve your goals. And I thought that helped me stand out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Medha and Hawk. And our next question is actually about extracurriculars. So we had someone ask what our extracurriculars were in high school. So we thought that the best way to approach this question was to hear from one person who's going into CS, one person who's going into humanities or social sciences, and then one person who's going into a science major, just so that you guys can see how extracurriculars can differ based on what you're passionate about and what major you plan to pursue. So for this question, we'll have Vibha, Sophia, and Hawk talking about their experiences and extracurriculars throughout high school. So Vibha, if you could start us off.
Yeah, I suppose I'll list out most of the extracurriculars I included in my college app. Those are the main ones to me. Since 9th grade, I've been playing tennis for my school all 4 years, and I was involved in leadership on that team as well. I did First Tech Challenge for 2 years. I was in Girls Who Code for 4 years, and I was president of that in 12th grade. I was a member of Gaines, a district club for girls, since 6th grade, and was president of the school's chapter in 12th grade. I was a part of the 49er STEM Leadership Institute since 7th grade. Over the summer before junior year, I participated in the Girls Who Code Summer Immersion Program, where I really found my passion in CS. I spoke a lot about that in my college app. I also did a lot of volunteering on the side, especially with tutoring younger children and peers. I also had vocal training for about 10 years. I think I also mentioned that. I think there were other things that I did, but those are the most important ones to me.
Okay, so my name's Sophia. Like I said before, I'm studying international relations. So some of the extracurriculars that I did in high school, not all of them relate to my major necessarily, but they were just things that I did because I found good life experiences from them, and I feel like they taught me skills that will be applicable for my future. So one of the first things I did was Interact, which is a community service club at our school. I was a club member my freshman and sophomore year, and then my junior year, I made it onto the district council, where I served as an area director. And then my senior year, I was the lieutenant governor of that district council. So I got to work with adults from all over the Bay Area and speak at conferences and things like that. Continuing on with the kind of leadership theme, I was class vice president freshman year. Sophomore and junior year, I was class president, and then my senior year, I was the student body president, where I got to serve on a lot of district committees and work a lot more closely with admin. So again, that was a good chance for me to learn how to interact with adults and get that kind of life experience before moving to university. I also founded a club called the Girls Empowerment Project, where we work to raise money for females abroad and work on creating a culture of awareness and acceptance within our own school. And then that club ended up expanding to 6 high schools in the Bay Area. And then the last extracurricular that I had included on my applications was sports, and I played badminton for 3 years, not necessarily because it had anything specific, I just thought it was fun.
Hello. So for some of my extracurriculars that I think are important to talk about, they all, again, go back to the theme of wanting to like give back to people and helping. And although it might not seem like it, for example, one of them was First Tech Challenge, which was robotics, but I was going into biology. But like, for example, like the outreach factor of that and trying to connect robotics to help people in the community to it. And then science fair sophomore year and freshman year, I did it was more of like a coding and engineering project, which I won awards for, but this I tied into it was giving back, helping people. So that was one of them. And then for another one I was a part of the Nejad Youth Orchestra, which here basically it was an orchestra that promotes music for peace, and we would play at different gatherings to raise money and multicultural events and senior citizen homes, which I got around 300 hours of volunteering. And then more like science-based, I guess. I was an intern at an orthodontics clinic, which I thought was great for getting insight on what possible fields I could be going to. And then also the summer before senior year, I took Principles of Chemistry at Stanford to get kind of an introduction of what college courses would be like, and I can also get credit for that next year.
Okay, thank you, Vibha, Sophia, and Hawk. As you can all see, they're all very accomplished, and most of their, not most, but like, some or most of their extracurriculars didn't necessarily relate to their majors. So don't feel like every single one of your extracurriculars has to correlate with what you want to study in the future, because the most important thing is that you do what makes you happy and what you're passionate about, and you're able to take away something from everything that you do, because that's what college admissions officers are looking for. They want to see how you grew as a person and how you developed your passions. So moving on to our next question, what would you tell your past self about high school in general? So for this one, we have Sophia and Hawk. So Sophia, if you'd like to start us off.
Yes. Okay, so some people, you'll commonly hear this, they say that high school doesn't really matter because after 4 years you forget about the people and the experiences anyways. And I think that term can definitely apply for things like drama and popularity, but I think that also far too often people overlook how much of a transformative time high school can actually be for you. Because if you're involved in things at school, you're actually beginning to get a stronger background on what the real world will eventually look like. That includes things like working in teams, planning an event, learning how to manage your own personal time and take care of all those different aspects of your life that you'll have to once you have a real job. And once you get to college, I don't think that there's that many spaces where you can learn that kind of growth. So I think that it's really important to take advantage of that time in high school when you're still living in your hometown, you still have support systems around for you to begin to learn that type of growth. And then when you get to college, you can use all of those skills that you've learned and keep succeeding and excelling and realizing your full potential in those different kinds of experiences. So definitely don't take high school for granted. Like the common cliche says, I would say get involved as involved as you possibly can and take advantage of the resources that are around you.
So I think I would tell myself 3 main things. The first one being how important it is to develop good study skills during the week and have good schedules. Like, I know a lot of people stay up late working, but if you just like plan things accordingly and track yourself and have like calendars and stay organized, I feel like there's no need for that. And then, overall it affects your schoolwork and everything will be better, including like test scores, because you're more awake during school and paying attention. Another thing I would tell myself is to not just pile on so many APs just because I feel like people around me are, or it's something colleges want to see. I think I really bombarded myself with the number of classes I took, even though I don't think it was completely necessary, because I would stay up at late, like stressing out over, oh, what if I don't get an A on this test or that test? But in reality, as long as I feel like if you have a balanced schedule and you're maintaining like good grades, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to just take APs just to take APs. And then the last thing I would say is to actually like have fun, especially now that I have moved on from high school, I guess. Something we all focused on a lot, at least in our friend group, was like, studying, doing our work here and there, and extracurriculars, but we didn't do many like fun things during the week because we're like, oh, like there's always like later for that or the weekend or something. And then, well, I guess now we really won't be able to see each other. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sophia and Hawk. And next is a sort of similar question, but it's what is an important thing that you wish you knew before applying to colleges? So for this one, Anjali, Jessica, and Kalie will be talking a little bit about their own experiences. So Anjali, if you could start us off.
Yeah. So I think like the obvious things come to mind. If I could go back and like tell myself like what I could have done to prepare more or be better about like staying on top of things. I definitely would have wanted myself to be more organized, give myself like the time and the space to really dive into my essays. So I guess advice I would offer is like giving yourself a schedule and planning ahead and knowing where you're going to apply to early on in the process so you can plan around that. But the other thing that really comes to mind is I didn't anticipate how reflective I would get during the entire process. College essays are not your run-of-the-mill English class essays. You're not just like listing out extracurriculars for college. You are literally telling them like your entire life story and like who you are, what you want to be. And I think I never anticipated how much reflection and like thinking about like myself, like how much of that I would have to do during the process. So if you are still in high school and the process is coming up for you, just start thinking about your values and what you want out of not just college, but your future and what you want those institutions to see. So be prepared to reflect and really think about what it is that you want, and also stay on top of things. That's my advice.
Yeah, kind of adding on to that, I think from a different perspective, like I think I wish I knew that you don't need the perfect SAT2 score to get into a good college. I think that's like a misconception I guess I had throughout all of high school, because everyone around me like took SAT2s to really show their strengths in certain subjects. And for me personally, I spent the majority of my time studying for like SAT2 math and bio, and I'm not really a standardized testing person, so I didn't really do well on them. And when I was initially applying to college, I got nervous because like, oh, I don't have the perfect 800 or like a 750 or above. But kind of after going through the entire process, I realized that like I'm really not bound by just one or two tests and like the perfect score. So like, yeah, that's the advice I would give.
I think for me, the biggest thing for me was probably not networking and talking to enough people. I'm a really shy person, so it takes a lot of courage for me to be able to talk to someone who may be working in a field that I'm interested in, or maybe like put myself out there like while attending a workshop to ask a question, just because I'm shy and scared. So I think creating connections with people with similar interests, with different interests as well, is really important. And it can also help in the college application process, because if you talk to people at schools that you're considering, you can get a much better idea of what their experience is like at the school that they're attending. And you yourself can learn more about that school through the person and see if that school is a good fit for you through networking and communicating.
Okay, thank you, Anjali, Jessica, and Kalie. Those are great responses. And our next question is, again, kind of similar, but this is focusing more on the actual college app. So our next question is, what do you think is the most important thing in a college app? So for this one, we have Vibha and Isabel sharing their insights. So Vibha, if you could start us off.
Yeah, I say this a lot to a lot of people, but one of the most important parts of a college app is your voice and your passion. Among thousands of applicants, there are a lot of skilled people, but there's only one you. And it sounds really cliche, but your passions and your reasons for pursuing your college or major or extracurricular are unique to you. And it's crucial to show that you are a real passionate person and not just a robot who is doing things to beef up their college app. There's a part of the college app where you list all of your extracurriculars, and sure, go ham on that, flex as much as you want. But on your essays, that's where you focus on showcasing your personality, struggles, growth, and voice. Think of moments, even seemingly insignificant anecdotes, that showcase your genuine self, and that would really exhibit your best side.
Similar to what Viva was saying, I would say that you do want to show your like be as genuine as you can. I think that's kind of hard to, that's a very like vague advice that's kind of hard to take action upon. So I would say like if someone were to read your essay, like someone that you know, you would like amongst your peers, they would be able to recognize that this essay was written by you without your name. So like make sure that your extracurriculars and your actions have some sort of like common something that like ties them together, and you want to make sure that you're as unique as possible, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Vibha and Isabel. And moving on to our next question, how did you find your passion and choose a major? So for this question, we have Anjali and Sophia who are going to be talking about their majors and how they discovered their passion for those majors. So Anjali, if you could start us off.
So like I said, I'm majoring in cognitive science. It's a relatively new major. I think it only really started being offered like around the 70s, I think. And I definitely hadn't heard of it until maybe my junior year. I think at that point, I thought I was going to end up majoring in CS because that was honestly what everyone around me was doing. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think CS is a great field and I definitely want to end up in it for sure. But I think somewhere along the way, I realized that my strengths and my interests were just so all over the place that I felt like CS just wasn't for me. And I found Cog Sci and I realized that it was so interdisciplinary. If you don't know what cognitive science is, it's basically the study of thought, like how humans think and process information and process like memory and stuff. And I really, really enjoyed like my psych class, but I also really enjoyed my CS class. And I liked math, but I also really enjoyed writing and reading. And I think a major that was as interdisciplinary as Cog Sci really interested me because I could kind of dabble in all of those things and still have a career path in mind. But I think there are a lot of different reasons to choose a major, and you should pick a major based on feasibility, passion, what is best for you considering the future. Don't pick a major based on what everyone else around you is doing. Definitely take the time to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah, I really agree with what Anjali said about making sure you pick a major that's for yourself, because in the end, it probably will lead to something that you're going to be doing as a job for most, if not the rest of your life. And if it's something you don't like, that would be bad. But for myself and how I picked my own major, I really liked languages and learning languages in high school. So for university, I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with like foreign cultures and linguistics. So I had considered at the beginning of my senior year just majoring in like straight up linguistics, but most of the jobs that are associated with that focus a lot on like translation and interpretations. They're not super people oriented. And that was something that I wasn't really down for because I definitely am a people person. And so I started to look more broader instead of like specifically on linguistics, and I found the major of international relations. I really liked the leadership aspect that it offered, along with the fact that it's such a broad major that you could use it to do quite literally anything when you graduate. And so once I started researching universities, I ended up finding the school that I currently attend, which combines IR as well as technology. And so that's how I picked my major.
Okay, thank you, Anjali and Sophia. And then our next question is, what about the university you you chose stood out to you from the other colleges that you got accepted into? So I'll be talking a little bit about why I chose George Washington, and then Jessica will be talking about why she chose Boston University. So when it came to choosing a college for me, there were two things that I found really important. One was to make sure that it was an urban school. I feel it's my personal belief that most people either will fit into a traditional college campus or an urban campus. And personally, I knew that I would not be happy on a traditional campus and it had to be urban. So that, took off like half the schools I got into. And then out of all the Out of the 3 urban schools I did get into, George Washington did offer me the most financial aid, so it seemed like the most responsible option. And finally, George Washington is kind of known for political science, and I think it's really important to choose a school that is not necessarily well known for your major, because prestige shouldn't be a big factor in your college decision. But I do think it's important that your school is recognized for having a really strong program in your major, which George Washington definitely did, because it offers so many internship opportunities. The location is perfect. Going into politics, I really want to be in DC or somewhere on the East Coast. So George Washington just kind of checked off all my boxes, and I knew that I'd be a good fit there. So Jessica?
For me, I think one of the most important aspects was being able to change majors easily, because I have a general idea of what I want to do, but I definitely think that private schools give more leeway when you change majors and more flexibility than private schools and then public schools do, because especially like UCs, there's like a lot of students, so they can't really, I'm not quite sure because I don't have personal experience, but from what I've heard, it's a lot harder to transfer majors as a UC student. And also chose this school because I wanted a school that had a lot of different options in terms of major selection, and also I know prestige isn't everything, but the school, like the colleges themselves, like their business school and their law school and their med school programs are definitely very well known. So graduating from a college that has these type of programs will definitely give you like a leg up when you do try and find a job. And also I preferred like smaller class sizes, so I don't think UCs were for me at all in that sense, because there's definitely a lot more students there. So I think it really just comes down to what you're looking for in a college, and like that's how I kind of chose what school I ended up going to.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And we have one final question before we can get into a general Q&A, if you guys have any other questions that weren't listed here. So our last question is, if you're pursuing computer science, why did you choose the college and path that you took? So Medha and Kalie are both majoring in CS at UCLA and UC Berkeley, respectively. So Medha, if you can start us off.
Hey. Hello. I think I'm going to start with why I chose to major in CS. So I think I wanted to major in CS because it's really applicable to other fields like art and music. And I'm really interested in applying what I learned in college to stuff that I really like to do. And I also think that the CS field is really exciting and it's always growing. And specifically, there's lots of opportunities to directly and positively impact the community. So I think combining all of those things was something that I really wanted my college experience to give me. And then why I chose my college. So I chose UCLA over some of the other schools I got accepted into because I really wanted a strong engineering-focused curriculum. And at UCLA, I get to have an engineering-focused curriculum, and they also really encourage like undergraduate research, undergraduate involvement in internships, and the CS and engineering community at UCLA is really strong and like close-knit. So, oh yeah, and the professors are super interesting and smart. So I'm really excited for my 4 years. And if you're interested in an engineering curriculum, I would strongly recommend UCLA.
I think I was initially introduced to computer science through my mom, who is a software engineer, and seeing what she did was really cool because even though I didn't really understand a lot of it when I was young, I saw that she was able to change the functionality of the technology that she worked with just by writing a couple lines of code or changing a lot of code. It depended on the situation, and I thought that was really cool. And but I didn't really start doing it for myself until I started doing robotics in high school, starting from freshman year. And though there's multiple aspects of robotics, I most enjoyed the software side of it. And since my interest started there, I have tried a lot of different things using programming. I've tried like web design and app design, and just all of these projects that I take on allow me to learn more about what programming can do. So, and it made me really, I figured out that I really enjoyed the process of programming and developing like cool products that people could use. So yeah, that's how I got into my path of computer science. In terms of choosing UC Berkeley, I chose UC Berkeley over some of the schools that I got into because there's a really strong computer science program and computer science community at UC Berkeley. And there's also, and it is a well-known program as well, but that wasn't one of the top reasons why I chose Berkeley. The two main things that I considered were like the opportunities that the college offered me, as well as just the connections that I could make through being able to go to the college, and seeing that UC Berkeley is in the Bay Area and there's lots of companies that go to UC Berkeley and talk with the students there to recruit. I thought that was a really good opportunity to try a lot of, be exposed to a lot of fields of technology and be able to talk to lots of different people and try lots of different things so that I could eventually, through UC Berkeley, figure out my exact path in computer science. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Medha and Kalie. So that concludes all the questions that we received through the Google form. And I see that a couple of people sent in questions through the chat, so we can answer those really quickly as well. So the first one is, what's the difference between an urban and traditional university? So I can actually take this one because I did do a lot of research on it when I was deciding on a school. But traditional college campuses are usually what you picture when you think of, a college campus. The beautiful architecture, the really aesthetically pleasing campus, lots of greenery. It's usually like a rural or a suburban school. And these, if you think of like many of the Ivy League campuses, those are definitely traditional college campuses. Like Santa Clara University. Some of them, like UC Davis, have their own college town where a lot of the businesses there cater to the college students specifically. And I think another big distinction is that they have football games. Sports are really popular and kind of drive the campus culture and school spirit. So yeah, there's football games, tailgating, lots of parties, lots of school spirit. So that is definitely something you should look into if you want more of like, if you really enjoyed like, how do I say this? If you enjoyed like the sense of community you can often find in high school, if you want to have the majority of your social life on campus, if you want to go to a really beautiful school, then definitely a traditional college campus is for you. And then meanwhile, in an urban school, usually sports aren't as big of a deal. For George Washington specifically, we don't even have a football team. So yeah, we don't focus on sports that much. The campus culture is a lot more individualistic because since there's not like a really strong sense of school spirit, people often go off campus to have fun or for their social life. And urban schools are located within the city, and then they are a part of the city. So if you think of Columbia, NYU, George Washington, Fordham University, a lot of schools in big cities are urban schools. And I personally preferred an urban school because I wanted something a lot different from high school. And since I've never lived in a big city, I knew this is something I wanted because I personally enjoy the big city feel. So yeah, it really just depends on what you like, but there's definitely a really big difference between the two. Yeah. Do you know if we have enough time to answer more questions?
So the thing ends at 7 o'clock, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay. Yeah, so we have enough time to answer a few more. Okay, so Our next question is, what kind of extracurriculars did you do and how did they have an impact on you? I'm not sure if you were here for the beginning of the panel, but we did have a few of our consultants from different majors talk about their extracurriculars. And since this is recorded, you can go back and watch that if you're more interested in our extracurriculars. How do double majors work? Does anyone want to answer that? I don't know a lot about double majors.
I can take that.
Okay.
So I think the first school to school for my school, basically there's a dual degree and a double major. So a dual degree is if you want 2 bachelors from 2 separate schools. So if you want one from the School of Engineering and you also want one from the School of Arts and Sciences, you would have 2 degrees, and that's a dual degree, and that takes around 5 years. And then if you want to have like a double major, you have a primary major and then you also have your secondary major. So that means that you have to complete all the requirements that's in your primary school, but you wouldn't have to complete all those gen ed requirements for the secondary school that you want your secondary major in. As for majoring within the same school, I think it depends on your school, but for our school, I heard it's pretty difficult because you would have to take a lot of courses. And then someone else also talked about minors, so I'll just quickly answer that one as well. So minors is basically you would take like it's like kind of like a smaller set of courses, and that way it's kind of like a certificate, or they have certificates and then minors as well. So you would take less courses than a major would, but you would get like some kind of recognition for that.
I also want to add on to that, like Isabel said that it's hard to to double major in engineering, but there's some schools that actually don't allow you to double major in engineering. There are some UCs like UCLA that don't allow you to do that, and that's because like if you want the distinction of having a major or minor on your like diploma when you graduate, you can't have too many classes in common. So someone asked, like, in what profession would minors prove useful? For example, if you're a CS major, a lot of CS majors minor in like math or like computational math or data science or something that's related to your major, but doesn't cover like the same education. And you'd be learning 2 different things, but they're kind of similar, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Medha. And then
if I could add on.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, if I could add on. I was also getting programs that allow you to get like, well, like if I want to do biology and business, like, can you not hear me? Hello? Wait, can you not?
We can hear you.
I think it froze up for a bit, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, basically there's just programs that make it a lot easier and there's less like requirements. Like if I want to do a double major and get into like a certain program, that there's like a lot less requirements and I would have to take less units, but per like semester. But the only thing is you would have to get into the program. So like if I want to do that and I don't get into the program, then I won't be allowed to like double major. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Hawk. And just, adding on to, why would you take a minor? So I am actually thinking about minoring in theater. So if you have, a passion, usually in the arts that you don't want to necessarily major in because you want to choose something more academic, or you feel like you want, a backup option in case a career in the arts doesn't work out. Or I mean, I'm not saying that majoring in the arts is a bad option, because if you know what you're passionate about, you should definitely go for it. But if you're interested in an academic field as well as the arts, then minoring in the arts could definitely help you keep your options open for the future, and as well as, just like have a hobby. And I would also recommend considering minoring in a foreign language because knowing more than one language can be incredibly useful in the future, because I once had a Spanish teacher tell me that if there are two people that are going for the same job and one of them can only communicate in English, but the other one can communicate in English and Spanish, that person is automatically more appealing for the job because they'll be able to connect with more people. So that's definitely something you should think about if you are considering minoring. So yeah, and I'm just scrolling through the questions, seeing if there's anything else that we haven't addressed yet. Oh, how do you know which schools are safety, reach, and target schools? So I can talk about this really quick. Safety schools should be schools that you are 100% sure that you can get into. So just, there's a lot of calculators out there that'll give you your chance of being accepted into a school based on your SAT scores, your GPA. Obviously, these are not, guarantees of whether or not you'll get accepted because your SAT score and your GPA don't determine everything about you, and your essays and your extracurriculars do play a really big role, but these calculators can give you a good idea of where you fall and how likely you are to be accepted. So you should be 100% sure that you'll get into your safeties. Your target schools should be schools that are within your range, like your SAT score and your GPA are within their, their median range for, which you can find if you Google the schools that you're interested in. So yeah, your score should fall within their median ranges. And you should have, like, I would say at least like a 30 or 40% chance of getting in at least, in order for them to be your target schools. And then finally, reach schools. These are your pie in the sky schools that, like maybe Ivy Leagues or other more prestigious schools with a really low acceptance rate that you have a much smaller chance of getting into. But yeah, it never hurts to try. So make sure that you have at least a couple of each type of school on your college list. Okay, and then our next question is, can you talk about studying abroad and the advantages and disadvantages? So luckily, we actually have an expert about that on our panel. So Sophia, if you can answer this one.
Yes. Okay, so I'll try to answer it as quickly as possible. I'm not sure if your question necessarily means studying abroad while attending a school in the US or like fully doing your degree abroad. For fully doing your degree abroad, it's definitely a really, really big change. So if you want to do that, you need to make sure that you're researching it at least like in your junior year or very, very early in your senior year. There's a lot of different tests you have to take to apply for admission in a school that is abroad. But after 1 year of living abroad, I can say it's been a really, really great experience. I've learned a lot more about a culture that I never would have gotten the chance to if I had stayed in the US. And I think in comparison to just doing like a semester abroad, I'm really getting that new experience and lifestyle. The other thing I would say is that if you're looking to ever live and work abroad, this is a really great chance because employers will see that you have a degree from somewhere that's not the US and somewhere that you already had that experience of living in a different country. So that's like the advantages for studying abroad. The only disadvantage for like fully doing your degree abroad would be if you're doing something like medicine or law that you need a specific degree from the US for because you want to work in the US later, then that would be the only thing. If you were talking about studying abroad just for a quarter or a semester, I would definitely say go for it if your program allows you to and you have the time to. The only disadvantage that I could say about it from people I know who have studied abroad is that they feel they lose a bit of time to do internships like in the place that they're in. So for example, like with Anita, if she was in DC, but she decided to take a semester abroad to go to like the UK, she might have missed out on an internship that she could have been doing in DC. Personally, I think on the grand scale of things, that's fine because that's one experience that you will never really get to have again. So yeah, I would definitely recommend doing it.
Okay. Thank you, Sophia. I think that is all the time we have today for questions. But, if any of the panelists want to quickly answer anything in the chat, you can go ahead and do that. But as for now, that's all the time we have. But if you have any other like questions that are specific to what you want to study or the schools you want to go into, or how to best market yourself to college admissions officers based on your specific situation, your extracurriculars, the best essay ideas, we can help you brainstorm essay ideas. If you're interested in any of that, make sure to check us out on Instagram. Our username is, again, Bay Area Consultology. We can work with you on a one-by-one basis to figure out how to narrow down your college list, brainstorm essay topics, anything else that you have questions about, we can answer them. So yeah. And also, thank you so much to Team Taro for having us.
Thank you for hosting a workshop with us.
Hold on. Yeah, thank you guys all so much again for giving us all your insight and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. And thank you so much to everyone who came.